Hi, I'm Krista Gorman, and I'm the owner of Loverly Weddings and Lifestyle Photography. Welcome to Loverly TV. This is the Behind the Loverly Lens, a series where I interview past couples and wedding professionals to get their expert advice and personal tips and experiences in weddings. Now that we have survived a COVID wedding season, I've created this channel to help my current couples as they try to navigate through planning a wedding during a pandemic. It's my hope that they and you will find these videos informative and valuable on your journey to plan the perfect day. Today on the show, I'm so excited. We have the fabulous boss lady officiant extraordinaire, Ms. Cathy Davis from Cathy Davis & Co. Cathy, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Hi, how are you?
Good. Why don't we start off and you tell me a little bit more about your company?
Absolutely. Um, so I have a kind of a funny way of kind of coming around into officiating. I worked in hospitality for many years, so I studied hotel management at school and worked in the hospitality industry and married a funeral director. So about 17 years ago, I can't believe it's that long ago already, but I was on my maternity leave. And a lot of family members at that time worked in the funeral industry, and they thought I would make a really good funeral celebrant. So I went and took some training to become a celebrant and started doing funerals for families that maybe didn't have a minister or wanted something non religious, wanted something celebratory, meaningful, because there wasn't really an option for that back then. And so I was kind of doing that. During the weekdays, and the evenings and weekends, I was still working in the hotel industry and I was overseeing weddings. So the last 10 years of my career were at the Pillar and Post. So at that time, I was already working at the Pillar and Post. I was coming off my maternity leave and just kind of looking to expand my career in a different direction because, it was really hard being working until 2 in the morning and then getting up with kids in the morning. I was finding that really difficult, and I was kind of trying to find a new avenue to go in. So that's how I kind of stumbled into this. Felt like I was stumbling into it, but then when I look back, it looks like everything that I've done up to this point all perfectly lent itself to, I know it's going to sound corny, but all my careers all married together, all came together. And it eventually led to me, pretty much straight away, I knew that after I officiated some funerals, that I wanted to do weddings too, just because it was such a natural step, right? I was already fluffing the dress, watching the brides walk in. I was getting their rooms ready, making sure they were perfect, and having all that available for them. And it was so much fun, and I still love that. And the planning process is still, close to my heart, and helping couples plan their weddings. But that's how it kind of all started. So I started doing that almost 17 years ago. And then for the last 9 years, I've been doing weddings as well. So it's really exciting.
That's amazing. That explains so much now about from what I've seen from you because you're so much more involved with your clients, I think, than some other officiants that I've met in my travels. You kind of have more of a hands-on approach as far as how you help your couples throughout their day. So, and then plus you've got your hands in sort of other pockets too with the pop-up weddings and things like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So now you can see why, my planning background kind of comes out in what I do. And also working for a high-end property or many high-end properties. So that kind of that concierge-based thinking. So everybody, that I brought onto my team since then, I just want them to be highly professional. I want them to have that concierge thinking of always, trying to be that one step ahead of what they're going to ask for next, or just doing things and taking initiative without having to, just assume that that's maybe going to be done or not going to be done. I want them to always be, trying to think of like, oh my goodness, all the groomsmen, all their pocket squares are all different, right? And a lot of photographers catch that, but sometimes they're caught up and they're busy. So it's, I'd like to step in and say, guys, you gotta, oh, you all have one button. Are you wearing one button? I'll wear one button. Just those little tiny details that, maybe some other people don't think of.
Absolutely, absolutely. And even like you're very good at like when to take the mic and how to like I notice when like the bride and groom are up at the altar and sometimes things can get a little crazy or people, emotions, they forget what's really going on or what they were supposed to do. You're really good at discreetly sort of guiding your couples and helping them along.
Yes, yeah, that's another big part of what we do. And a lot of people, I don't think, really understand or all the things that we need to anticipate, and all the things that could go wrong. And sure, there's officiants out there that are maybe a lot cheaper than what we offer, but we really just wanted to make your day so special and make sure that we weren't overcrowding our day. We're not rushing. We're not late getting there. We're not rushing out after. We're there for you. And when we're there for you, we're there for you every minute that we're there. And, just taking that time, a lot of things can go wrong. I'm sure you've had lots of things go wrong too. From flowers not arriving on time to a guest at the ceremony maybe having a medical issue, and how you handle that, and the poise that you have, and being able to deal with many situations at once and super high emotions, right?
Mhm.
As you know, things things don't always go off as planned, and emotions are never what they expect they're going to be.
Mm,
So
absolutely. It's nice that you are able to provide that sort of calming force or that calming energy. And you probably have like a lot of experience with that too, given your time working in the funeral homes as well, right? Because you have that
absolutely.
sort of heightened emotion experience.
Yeah, it's really, you know, sometimes the most emotional day in people's lives, either, end of life celebration or a christening or a new life celebration. Not as stressful, obviously, but weddings, obviously, there's so many things going on, and just family dynamics, and, how everything's going to come together. And, some brides are more hands-on and kind of want to have a little bit more control, and some other brides just say it's okay, you guys just do your job, and I know I paid you to be here, and I trust you, and
Yeah.
let it go, and can do that. But not everybody's like that. And a huge thing that we have to deal with that not a lot of people understand or anticipate is people's fear of public speaking, and people's fear of standing in front of other people. It's a huge issue.
Yeah. I've had some clients who are really like, they get really worked up and really nervous about
Yeah.
walking up the aisle. Yeah.
And I'm sure that's kind of the, when I hear a lot of people saying, I just want to get the ceremony over with. And I'm like, oh no, it's the only thing that you have to have a wedding is a ceremony. The rest is just a party to celebrate that. But, I want people to enjoy their ceremonies and be able to be there and be present. And it's really hard. It kind of, as you can probably attest to, it kind of feels like an out of body experience. Like it
Yeah.
feels so surreal, right? Like,
So fast, and it's just, and then it's
yeah.
done and you're like, okay, that was it.
I know, I was worried all for nothing, or,
Yeah.
you put all that time and energy into planning a day. I often kind of say to my couples, remember when you were a little kid and you're looking forward to Christmas morning, and then Christmas morning you open all your gifts up and it's over. Like this is the same kind of thing on your wedding day. You've put so much time and energy into every little detail, but the only person that's going to know about all those details is you. So
And that's the anticipation, right? You're anticipating and you're so excited, and then you're like, okay, let's do it. And then you get into it, and then all of a sudden it's over and it's like, what just happened?
it's just like that, that
Yeah.
fast.
And it's I always tell my couples too, like, just, especially if they're a little bit more nervous, I just kind of really try to like take a breath, like come
Yeah.
back to it, and really like don't focus. And I always tell them, you're never going to notice, as like anxious as you are about all these people staring at you coming up the aisle, you're not going to
Yeah.
notice them. All you're
No.
going to see is him or her at the end of
Yeah.
the aisle, and
Yeah.
that's who you're going to focus on, and nobody else matters. The whole world literally melts away.
It does.
And
Yeah.
like, and then just try to be as present as you can, because it goes that fast.
It does go so fast. And I
Yeah.
mean, it's kind of sad after. And I have people saying like they almost had, coming off it. It's like, oh, now what do we do? Like everything was focused on that for so long that it's like, oh, now I'm like, don't worry, you'll find things. You'll find something to renovate, or something will happen, and you'll be busy no matter what. But
Yeah.
it is an adjustment after too. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have a quite a team actually. So you're not just an officiant, like you own a company. How many officiants work for you?
Well, we're at 12 now. We have someone new coming on that I'm really excited about in the spring, someone but I can't say yet.
Who? Oh no, I'm like, can you tell me offline?
Maybe. Yeah. So I'm always trying to, right now I'm really focused on growing the market around to GTA. So we have a new officiant, Jen, that came on last year that's from Mississauga. The team here is really, so awesome. Just so excited about the people that have come into my life. And it just feels so amazing that everybody kind of had this connection to either each other or to me in some sort of way. And even the very first two people that came on my team just happened by fluke, but I was talking to someone, his name is Mark, who's now he's kind of more retired. He's not doing this anymore, but the first person that came on was Mark. I approached him because I knew him through my church. And then I got a call from, where we're ordained or licensed through. And they said, hey, we just had, licensed someone that's in Niagara Falls. I really think you should talk to her. Her name's Trish. And I thought, well, that year I only did 25 weddings. I said, I can't bring on someone else. I don't have enough business yet. That year we went to 50 weddings. And then I talked to her, and it ends up it's Mark's sister, their brother and sister. They didn't even know that each of them were interested in doing this or coming. And then I approached him, she approached me, same month.
Wow.
And that was the first, it's then the three of us. And then we went from 50 to 150 in 1 year.
Wow. So how did you do that? Like, how did you boost your sales really? Like,
Yeah, well, I think for me, I'm just so lucky because I've been in the industry for so long. That
yep.
was one thing. And also just because the most important thing to me has always been building relationships. So whether that's with industry friends or with our families. So, there's been a lot of families I've been serving now for 17 years. So I do have many families, especially 3 or 4 really close ones where I had done multiple funerals in their family. And now I can do weddings, right? So then instead of them saying, it's really nice to meet you, but we never want to see you again, because if they saw me again, it was bad news, right?
Right.
Then I was able to say, but wait, now if you see me again, it could be a wedding.
Yeah.
And then that just, those families started calling me for weddings. So now I have a family maybe where I've done 7 funerals, but 6 weddings or 7 weddings now too, and they're staying in that family.
Yeah.
So seeing the same people, feeling like part of their family, and some of them I get invited over for lunch or tea or whatever, and I still see them, even when there's not a wedding happening. So it's exciting to be part of their lives through so much, right? And be there for them when they need me on a really difficult day, whether it's emotionally sad or emotionally super exciting. So that's one thing. And then just, having all the industry connections that I had already.
Yeah.
And then doing some bridal shows and letting people know that I'm out there and
So
network.
how do couples get to choose, or like how do you choose which ones you're going to do personally versus give to your clients or to your team? And then like how are couples receiving of that? Because I know like with me, like if I try to hire associate photographers, they're coming really to me because I'm the brand, right? So I've always struggled with how do you do that?
Yeah. So that was really difficult at first because people maybe knew me just from the pillar post, but then they saw me doing ceremonies and they really liked what I was doing and how different we were doing things. So at first it was a little bit more difficult, but then the trust started building, right? And I think that takes time and the consistency, right, of how we do things different and how everyone on my team does it the same way that I do it. And a lot of that has to do with our online resources, which we can talk about in a minute maybe. But at first, there was a lot of reluctance. But once I started building better relationships with those wedding planners, with those wedding, coordinators at venues, and then once I started bringing the resources to them and showing them how, how the couples really have everything kind of in their own, control,
Mm,
that's when things started to change. So that was a big part of it.
okay, that's great.
Mhm.
And so do you train your officiants or do they come
Um,
to you to be trained
yeah,
themselves?
so they do have to go and get their license, but I get them to. We all have people shadow people in the team for quite a while before they start doing their own ceremonies. And then the greatest part of this is just the friendship, like the kind of family feeling that we've created for our team, where we just work really collaboratively. Like I don't really make any big decisions without running it past them first. And then also we have a Facebook, little chat that we are on all the time. And, if someone's sick in our families, or, we always reach out to each other and, kind of lean on each other for support. But also the greatest part of that is, sharing resources. Hey, how would you handle this situation? This happened to me. Um, just all of those things. This never happened to me before, or this thing happened on the license. What should I do? We always have each other's back, right? So it's a really great feeling. We get together quite a few times a year. Usually, we have meetings once a month, but
Yeah.
that's been difficult. We have big Christmas parties every year and things like that. So we're really close and we have fun together. Have lots of wine and just have lots of laughs. We laugh a lot and have a lot of fun together for sure.
Um, That's
Hmm.
wonderful. Well, and so I guess that kind of it's a good segue. So obviously COVID's affected you guys in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
So why don't we talk about our 2020 and what that was like for you and for your couples? How many weddings were you still able to do? Because I know you actually ended up doing, like me, I actually ended up doing quite a few, more than I
Yeah.
expected, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
We worked together. So that was
yeah.
fun. Yeah. Yeah.
So what was that
Yeah.
for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to imagine a year ago right now. We were just rolling with it and had no idea what was coming, really. Started to hear little inklings of, there's this virus, but we didn't know. So it was a massive adjustment and a very fast adjustment. It was just unbelievable how quickly it happened. So, last March, all of a sudden, I had a few people trying to squeeze their weddings in. My brother works for the government, so he kind of was saying, this is going to be way bigger than people are thinking. He started to say, like, be ready. So I kind of had a bit of a heads up ahead of time that it would probably last a little bit longer than most people were thinking. Um, and also, one thing that obviously tipped me off is that I had a last minute call to go and do an elopement for someone who was in the armed forces, and he was being called up. And then I thought, okay, this is bigger than what we think.
Yeah.
So sorry, I have a visitor here now. So it just, that kind of made me think, okay, this might be a little bit more serious than we're thinking. So that was about mid-March. It was a few days before the lockdown started, or before school started to shut down. So all of a sudden we went from, we had, we would have had, and the year before we had over 400 weddings. And then the postponements started to roll in. Obviously, April and May's weddings all got postponed. We were in shutdown completely. We could still do ceremonies for up to 5 people, including us. So that was us, the couple, and their witnesses. So all along, we could do that, and funerals for up to 10 people, including us. So we were still doing some funeral services, but they postponed as well. Quite a few of them are just said, we'll wait until we can have more people. Same as weddings, obviously. So there were some emergency kind of situations for weddings that happened, like just for immigration purposes, or very sick relatives, that kind of thing, where we went and did ceremonies. But for the most part, we moved about, I roughly estimate around 170 weddings that we moved.
Wow.
So some moved from the spring to the fall, and then some moved to this year. So it was obviously, it was hard. I think because our volume is quite a bit higher than maybe a photographer, or I know makeup artists and florals are probably pretty high, but I think that we have one of the highest volumes just because we have such a big team and because we can do multiple weddings in a day. We might do 2 weddings each or something, right? So
Mhm.
um, then obviously a photographer who might get one cancellation or postponement a week or something like that, where we were getting 10 to 20 some weeks. Every time you open your email to find, hi, we're postponing our wedding or we're canceling our wedding. I was like, oh, it was really hard. I'm not going to lie. It was really sad. But, you know, everybody had to deal with it. Everybody, we were just talking about perspective. Things could be way worse and in so many different ways. So it's like, okay, well, this is happening. And luckily, because we have the team, but almost it seemed at first that everybody got to stay with their own officiant. So if they moved from spring to the fall,
Yeah.
just that officiant happened to still have availability that day at that time. It was really incredible. I think there was only like a small handful, like maybe 5, where they had to move to a different officiant.
Wow.
Um, yeah, it was amazing. And so now, obviously, we're starting to see that again happening now.
Yeah. So this is why I'm doing these videos, right? Because I feel like a lot of times, and you probably noticed this too. I mean, last year was different because we had no idea what was going on, but I
Right.
think it was that was the problem, right?
Yeah.
Nobody knew what was going on or what to expect. And now that we have some experience, we know
Yeah.
what to expect, and we know I mean, we don't know for sure because obviously
Right.
2020 proved that.
Yeah.
You
There's no
never
crystal
know what could
ball, right?
happen. Yep.
No crystal
We can,
ball.
yeah, but we can kind of gauge based on what happened last
Yeah.
year and make
Yeah.
sort of strong assumptions on how things are going to look in
Right.
2021. And so that's why I'm doing
Yeah.
this for my clients, because I started getting questions, and they were questions that were like, do we need to wear a mask during all of our photos? And I was like, I can't even believe you would think that. No, no, you don't, And so I was like, wow, there's so much they just don't know.
Right.
Maybe we should do these videos to help give them that sort of information. So when it
Absolutely.
comes to 2021, like what are you anticipating, and what are the parameters for you as an officiant, and things that like maybe are most commonly asked by your couples about the officiating and the ceremony?
Just for COVID,
Yeah.
just for COVID. Yeah. So as far as wearing masks go, there are venues that are stipulating that we have to keep our masks on during the ceremony.
Yeah. If it's
That have been
inside,
doing that. Pardon me?
if it's inside only, generally they're doing that, or are they making you do that outside too?
Generally inside.
Okay.
Yeah. So there are some venues when we're indoors say you have to wear a mask to do the ceremony, and some are saying no. So there's some inconsistencies there. You would have to check with your venue. Generally, I've been wearing my mask while we're lining the wedding party up inside, because obviously we've been inside now for about 3-4 months. And then walking to the front and then taking it off and then having it off for the ceremony, putting it back on to do the signing, taking it back off, and then finishing it, putting it back on. So that's a little bit of a juggle to get used to, with a microphone and a binder and a mask. And, it can be really tricky sometimes, but, we all have to get used to different things. So not a huge deal. And outdoors, um, kind of, just being careful and wearing my mask around people. And then when the ceremony is about to start, then outdoors, I have been walking down the aisle with it not on,
Yeah.
or I was last summer. But I also left it up to people on my team, that you have to do what you're comfortable with too. So
That's what
everyone,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's what I tell people too. Like they'll be like, "Oh, should we wear them?" And I'm like, "I'm not going to tell you not to wear a mask. It's
right,
totally your call. If you feel more safe, put on a mask. That's fine."
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
really, that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, and I think just in general, speaking, some couples were really laid back about it and they weren't concerned whatsoever, and some were very careful about it. Some venues were way more strict about seating plans and spacing people apart, and then other venues, it just seemed like, it was everyday business and it was like there was no COVID at all. So,
Yeah. Actually, I want to bring it. I think I brought it up in another video, but I want to bring it up again because you were there at one of the weddings. But it blew me away at one of the weddings that we did where they were blowing bubbles as the couple
yeah,
was walking down the aisle.
I know.
And I was like, how is this
You
happening?
don't think of, even in funeral services, I usually do a candle lighting. Um, and then I have to have like it wasn't even, I didn't even anticipate every minute of that, to have hand sanitizer to clean the taper candle in between each lighting. And then I have to blow out the candle. Well, I can't blow it out with the mask on, right? So it's just little things like that that you don't anticipate, because you could have a unity candle ceremony in a wedding as well, right?
Yep.
Um, or wine ceremony where they drink from the glass, or um, a ring warming ceremony where we usually have the rings tied together and pass them around. Well, we can't do that right now. So
Wow.
unless the couple's comfortable with that, maybe it comes back to the front and then everybody has hand sanitizer. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just, having to always think about how things are going to be affected now and how we have to make them different. So
So what do you think about this year? Do you think it's going to be better for all of us, moving forward now that we have the experience of last year? Venues are a little bit more comfortable and have a lot of lessons learned. Do you think 2021 is looking better for weddings?
I think that it all comes down to, and I've said this a ton of times before in some news articles I was quoted into. I know that it's either you're planning for a wedding or you're planning for a marriage. So if you really want to get married, you're going to get married. Some people look at this whole experience with COVID as, what have we learned from this? How are we going to change our lives going forward from this? Is it that the most important thing is friends and family and health and how we live our lives, or is it just going to be a blip in time and it doesn't really matter? So some people are going to go ahead with their weddings, some people still want to have the big weddings and are postponing again. um, I think, yes, all of us are better prepared, we know what to expect. I think it's going to be a very similar season to last year, to be honest. So I think a lot of pop-ups again. I think a lot of elopements again. I think um, I think the numbers should be fairly similar to last year. It's the only thing I can assume at this point in time. Like the 50 indoors, 100 outdoors, maybe by July or August is what we're hoping.
Mhm.
We can only kind of go by what happened last year and the timeline of it and how that compares to this year. Again, we don't have a crystal ball, so
Yeah,
but I think masks will be around until a year from now, probably. So we have to anticipate that. Or, I mean, I think if you think of the worst case scenario and plan for that, then things could only be better, right?
absolutely. Yeah. And I think as we get into more of the general public getting the vaccine, um, things will probably be a little bit easier as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's going to make a huge difference. And I mean, a lot of people have been putting weddings off, but we don't really know like who's going to be here for a year from now. And I know some people have to postpone because I've had weddings, as you probably do too. We have people coming from Dubai or Asia or England or Australia, or the States, obviously, like all of the American weddings that we typically do. Or, I don't want to have a wedding because my brother and my mom are in the States and they can't be there. Um, that's a hard decision to make, but we have also seen a huge flip in how quickly the industry adapted to, live streaming weddings.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not the same without them there for some people. And I feel terrible for all of those couples. It's been really hard making these decisions. So it's really, you have to think about what's most important to you. And, if it's 150 people in this dance party and everyone's there from around the world and that's what you're waiting for, then wait for it. But just know that that could we don't know how long that could be. That, we would hope a year from now, but we don't have any answers yet. So
Exactly. Yeah. And like you said, you don't know who's, you might be waiting for, a great grandparent or grandparent to be there. But what if, you postpone it so far and then they're not there anyways because they're too old or, whatever.
exactly.
Knock on wood, something bad happens, and
Right.
so that's just like what COVID taught me is just that you can't plan life. Like
Yeah.
you can't. So you don't know what's going to hit you or what's going to happen. So you just kind of got to go with your gut and what feels right to you.
Yeah. And, I think the industry has been great at adapting and pivoting. And, I think we've all kind of gone out of our way to make sure that we've, like, if you had to move your date, that we've been really accommodating, I guess is the word I'm looking for. It's been, harder for some people to pivot that way. But, I think we've really just wanted the best for our couples and still want that. So,
100%. Actually, just reminded me too, like you are so helpful to so many of us in the industry as well. Right in that early stage of March, you had gotten a line because all the government offices shut down, and one of the things that clients just weren't thinking of was their marriage certificate and their
yeah.
marriage license, right? So
Yeah.
you had brought that to the forefront, like people might want to still get married or move their weddings up, but like if they can't get a license, they can't get married.
Yeah.
So you had a good line on like the places that were still open or where you could get them. So that was really helpful for a couple of my clients. So thank you for that.
No problem. Yeah, I'm glad I could help. And I'm always trying to, just be on top of everything and be helpful. I like to help others. And yeah, especially people in the industry. I love, you know, um, being there for them and maybe being a bit of a mentor to some people. And that's been a huge honor in the last couple of years too, helping the new people coming in and helping them grow their businesses as much as possible. So
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Hmm.
What would you say your biggest lesson learned from 2020 was?
um, just that we can't be prepared for everything that's going to happen. It's just, you know I didn't, we didn't anticipate this ever happening to our industry. I've been through, I was through 9/11, right? Working in the industry at that time, that was probably the closest thing that I could compare this to, but it was a much shorter timeline. We had a lot of Americans coming up at that point, then all of a sudden they had to have a passport. So then, you know, they were canceling and postponing. And then there was no travel for a little while, but that was a much shorter um, blip kind of in our industry than what this is. And SARS was a small blip as well, but
Mm.
um, no one could have, no one could predict this. No one knew what to do with it once it was here. I think we're still kind of trying to cope with it and trying to figure out what kind of advice we can give our couples. And so the biggest thing, I guess, is just to be able to take one day at a time and not try to panic about what's going to happen months from now, and just kind of just deal with what we can deal with, and what we can control, deal with what we can control, and whatever we can't control, we have to let go of.
100%.
Mhm.
So I noticed that you do a lot of pop-up weddings and you also actually offer elopements and small ceremonies in your own home, which is kind of
I
cool.
do. Yeah. So I was lucky to purchase this property. I was living in a property that was across the street from the lake, but we were just kind of going around into city property essentially. And so now I have my own private backyard here. And as soon as this happened, city halls were closed for ceremonies, but they were open for licensing. So there was quite a few people that were just looking for kind of a city hall kind of wedding. So I just started doing them on my back deck. And so I spent a few weeks painting quickly because it was an ugly dark brown. And then I painted the floor gray and the railings all white. Did some work around the gardens really quickly in May and June. And then was able to do quite a few ceremonies back here. So that was a lot of fun.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and it was safe. And I think, we felt distanced enough and we were outside. And I do have like a rain backup area. I have done some inside my house too, which was prior to COVID. I've done a few since COVID. Depending on the situations, a lot of the situations are, you know, just really, really sad stories of couples who have just not been able to get married for many different reasons. But we've had some, really difficult situations with couples who one of them has been diagnosed with cancer and they want to get married, or or they're seniors. We have some senior people getting married in their
Oh,
60s and 70s. I think COVID was like, yeah, no, like we don't know how long we're going to be here, how much time we have, and we really just want to be together and be married. And so we saw a lot of that as well, which was so sweet. Um, and I even had a surprise wedding back here where a couple came and they told their kids they were doing a photo session,
oh,
um, and invited her parents. And then all of a sudden it was like, well, this isn't just a photo session. We're actually getting married. And and it was so exciting to be
yeah.
part of that.
I did
Um,
one of those too, actually, where they all thought they were coming for a family photo session and it was it was a
yeah,
secret wedding. Yeah.
yeah, so much fun. And the pop-ups, yeah, I've kind of gone back to my planning roots a little bit. I've planned a couple of pop-ups myself. We have a couple coming up, which is exciting. And then we're a part of a lot of packages, which we're really so lucky, to be part of. And we're a part of we've got some great partners, some great venues. So
Yeah. You have
places where,
a huge list on your website. I was like, wow, like you're in it all,
Mhm.
like you're almost at every venue. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and again, that goes back to the relationship building and that consistency and that professionalism and that we're offering, I think, we're bringing to the table. And we're really lucky, and we love doing what we're doing. We're just, every time, I think everyone on my team would agree, like that, the moment where we get to do the declaration, we see by the authority given to us by this province, we now pronounce you're married. But I mean, it's just goosebumps every time. It's so exciting.
That's
I
awesome.
mean, what better kind of work can you do than that? It's very exciting every time. So yeah, it's awesome to be part of that.
Yeah. I love it. Why don't we talk about sort of the generalization of booking efficient and sort of like the most popular questions, like how do you design a wedding ceremony?
Yeah, for sure. So with my team, when you contact us, I look at availability first and kind of seniority on the team. But when someone says, we're getting married September 18th, for example, I would go on and see, the time of the ceremony, the location, and kind of see, who's available first of all. And then I let the couple know these three people are available, let's say, and then they go to the website. Every single person on my team has essentially their own page or their own little mini websites attached inside of my website. So you can go look at their bio, look at their testimonials, look at their videos maybe or photos of them doing weddings. And from the bio, kind of pick someone who you think would be a good fit. Like, oh, they have a dog and we love dogs, and maybe whatever it is that you feel like there's a connection there. And then you meet with that one officiant. Of course, if you don't feel like there's a connection, you can meet with a second officiant, but we've never had that happen yet. But some people think, oh, we can just meet with three people and pick from one of the three. But I don't ever want it to feel like there's a competition between
Okay.
people on my team,
Yep.
because we are just so collaborative. And I don't ever want anyone to be upset because someone got picked over another one. It's usually just comes down to how comfortable someone is with someone.
Yeah.
But the main thing is that we offer everyone this section of our website called Uniquely You. So they get to design their ceremony.
Oh, cool.
They go on there and it's all laid out really easily for them to follow along. And they just, go into statements of intent, affirmations, vows, ring exchanges, readings, and then, closing words even. So they get to pick every single aspect of the ceremony. And then there's a template that they just download, and then they can just essentially fill it in. So we're looking for, everything like the layout of the procession, And then like I think there's 30 ring exchanges, there's about 60 vows, there's about 70 readings. And I'm always updating it and changing it. We always, obviously we get great ideas from our couples too, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes bring something, or if they want to write their own vows or however that looks. We want to get to know them as a couple too. So that's equally as important. So we kind of want to weave their love story and how they met and how they fell in love and why they want to get married, kind of weave that through with a message to every couple, and then kind of base it on the readings they pick. And so that's kind of how the process works for our team anyways. And so you meet with them right now like this on Zoom, and then hopefully eventually obviously we want to meet with people in person. But the Zoom meetings have been great because a lot of our couples do come from out of town, right? And a lot of people are, maybe they come in for a whole day. It used to be, hey, we're meeting with our photographer at 11, our DJ at 12. Can we meet with you at 1 before we go to our florist, and do it that way, which is great too. And when we can come and meet someone in person, obviously great. And or just that meeting right before the wedding, as if it can be at the venue, we can kind of have a look at the space and talk about what it's going to look like, as well as actually the words that they're going to say. So yeah.
What is the most unique wedding that you've ever done?
Like location?
Just like if like have you had any like theme weddings or like any kind of like really out there unique style of like ceremony and
Yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of fun trying to, in a classy, elegant way, bring things in to like a Harry Potter theme, or,
that's what I'm looking for. Yeah.
oh yeah. Yeah. We've had all sorts of like, I mean, I had a reception that was all Lego themed. So like their cake was Lego. They had big, beautiful, it actually looked really pretty, like big vases in the middle of every table with colorful Lego that they could actually take the Lego out and build things with it.
That's
And
smart.
Lego things on the head table, and then little Lego people were holding the place cards. So every single person got a little Lego person. I
Was
mean,
little Lego bride and groom on the cake? Because I see like
yeah, they had all sorts of people on the cake. And things like that. I mean, people can get super creative, and people have different passions, right? It had like there's a lot of people love Disney. So there's a lot of like a Disney kind of theme, or they have like little like princesses on the table or something. As like that's the table number is, oh, you're a Snow White table or something. But location wise, I did done them like on the Ferris wheel in Niagara Falls.
Oh, cool.
And down like and sometimes just like in Burgoyne Woods or down the gorge, or just there's so many beautiful places around. Obviously on the Hornblower, we're part of the package there, so we do lots of weddings on the Hornblower in a normal season. We might do about 20 weddings on the Hornblower. So
how wet do you get?
soaked. Yeah, absolutely drenched. Unless the couple says like they don't, the brides have their hair and makeup done and they're in dresses sometimes. And they think it's just going to be a mist kind of, but it's a deluge of water. I mean, you just get absolutely soaked. So I usually, say to them, like, unless you really want to get wet, we'll go back down and we'll go down underneath, down under the deck and be inside for that part. But it's definitely a really cool photo op. And, the photos that they get down there, especially the nighttime cruises with the fireworks.
Oh, that'd be cool.
I mean, it is really cool. And, if you're Office fans, Jim and Pam got married on down there in the Maid of the Mist. So it kind of has that niche market of people who want to get married down there.
So why don't we talk about picking the right officiant? How do couples, what questions should they be asking? How do they make sure that like when they have that interview that, they're picking someone not just because they connect with them, but because they're going to do what they need to do for them?
Right. So I think from the standpoint of our team, I think that we're already offering a lot of things that maybe other teams don't. So things that, that we like to do different are, not over scheduling our day. So, if you're going to be meeting with an officiant and you want to, if you're wondering when you want to know when they're going to arrive, how long they're going to stay after, are they going to be running out the door after, do they have to get to another wedding, how much flexibility is there with timing? Because as we know, a wedding rarely starts on time. Quite often the guests look at, Google Maps and say, oh, to drive from Toronto to Niagara, it's in only an hour and 10 minutes. But on a Saturday in July, it's more like 2 hours and 30 minutes or 4 hours, right?
We had an officiant hold up. A officiant was late, 45 minutes late because he was coming from Toronto.
Right.
And everyone's
So
in the baking sun at Cave Springs Winery,
yeah.
like no shade, and it was deep in July. Yeah.
And again, I mean, that's why, I built such a big team, was so that there are weekends in September that we do over 20 weddings in a weekend, but that means that each of us only have one or maybe two, as opposed to, the officiants when I first started in the industry, and really the ones that I was working with at the Pillar and Post early on in my career, watching them just fly in. You're like, oh, who is this? Oh, who's here this day? Oh yeah, John and Sue. And then just run up there. John and Sue, do you take him? Do you take her? Yes, yes, I do. Wham, you're done. I'm out. I've got to run off to my next wedding. Well, they're not bringing a personalized ceremony, and they're not, bringing a lot of professionalism. They're certainly not bringing great energy to your day, when you're rushed and you're panicked and you're running in, and we never want that for our couples. So those are all things that are really important to us as a team. Even sometimes people ask us like what we wear. Well, we have a lot of photos on our sites. You can see that, we try, I consciously try and even pick out even nail polish or a dress or anything that's going to go along with that wedding. So did a wedding where all the guys were wearing jeans, and then they had like white shirts and blue ties or something. So like I wore like a blue skirt with a jean jacket or something. I want to try and fit in to
Yeah.
their. And we're conscious of the fact that we're in a lot of photos. So, I don't want to wear an orange polka dot dress and they're all in black tie, right? We're going to wear a really nice black dress or whatever. It's important to us to fit in. So those are just little details that that are important. And then the things that we offer, just we try and help you walk you through getting your license, and then of course all of our ceremony options. So a lot of other teams don't offer that. So they might just say you have ceremony A, B, C. Mm-hmm. So you want to make sure that they're explaining all the legal elements of the ceremony. You want to make sure that they're allotting enough time in their day for you, that they're going to meet with you, that they're going to get to know you. I'm friends with a ton of my couples on Facebook, or we follow each other on Instagram. It's an easy way for me to kind of stay in touch with them and say like, oh, see, they love dogs, or they love travel, or they love this. They obviously love family. That's important to them, based on, not that we're stalking them or anything, but it is an opportunity to stay in touch and get to know them as a couple even better. Yeah. So those kind of things, just whether you think that person's going to be professional, what kind of experience they bring to the table. A lot of that is just right on our website. It's easy to find. Look at the Google reviews. What are people saying about that officiant, right? What are they saying about how they handled themselves in situations, if that happened, or whatnot. So those are a few of the things. How flexible they are with changing out aspects of the ceremony, and what kind of suggestions are they offering? Are they trying to help you with your vendors? Are they trying to help make your ceremony different and unique and special, right? By adding in different special ceremonies, or, sometimes you get couples that they're both environmentalists or something, and then you want to make sure they do something like a tree planting, or, just something that's going to be a lot more meaningful to them.
Yeah. So I know that some officiants don't offer different denominational services. So what does your team have for that?
Yes, so most of us have our license through Celebrating Life Ministries. I have 3 people on my team that are Presbyterian and 1 United, but we're all, ordained in the province of Ontario. That being said, you can put as much religion or as little into the ceremony as you'd like to have in there, so that the control of the content is completely up to our couples. And then just given the fact that we're fairly just non-denominational, we also do multi-faith, right? So we've had like Hindu, Muslim, Jewish, glass breaking ceremonies, under the hoopah, whatever they want to incorporate in is totally fine with us. And, just as far as even working with vendors, we even have some people say, what if our photographer wants to come stand behind you? Or, some different religious bodies have different rules. So, and especially in churches, right? They wouldn't let you come up close to when they're doing the ring exchange, or if they're doing a scripture reading, or if they're doing a prayer or something like that, or might, not allow photographers to do certain things in the ceremony. Whereas we really don't care. We trust you. And like, if there's a photographer standing over my shoulder, there's a photographer standing over my shoulder. It's not going to affect what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So we're really open-minded that way. And we love bringing in different aspects, right? I've had to do some ceremonies mostly in French, or we have interpreters that we work with too. So we have, I'm not bilingual in French, but I can, get through a French ceremony, maybe not with quite the right accent, but we do have interpreters. We have 3 French interpreters, Spanish, Italian, that we work with often, that can come in and actually do interpretation as well.
What about
So
Simon?
that's I do have 2 people, and I've used them before. So the 2 of my colleagues that actually work with that Pillar and Post are sign language interpreters. So I'm still close with them, and yeah, so we brought them in before as well. So we've had to deal with all of that. Yeah, yeah. I mean, and or maybe it's just that there's just a small percentage of the people that are there, maybe Italian. So then maybe one of them comes up and does a reading in Italian, and then someone else does the same reading in English, or a different reading in English. I'm always just, trying to listen to their stories and trying to make it as meaningful and personal as possible.
What is the typical length of a ceremony?
Yeah, so our elopement ceremonies that are usually under 15 people, those ones are more in like, even some people pick something that's only 5 minutes, which it's always like hard for me to do, because it's not, it's not as meaningful as usual. But some people just want to get legally married, and then some of them go up to about 10 to 15 minutes, whereas like the fuller ceremonies are usually around the 20 to 30-minute mark.
Yeah.
Typically, yeah, on average, I would say 25 minutes. Mm-hmm.
So when they get married and they get so the paperwork that you give them, the license and everything that they sign. Now I remember
Mm-hmm.
this when I got married, I was really confused about what to do with all of that afterwards.
Yes,
So maybe
it can be. Yeah, so they purchase a license. They bring it to the wedding. There's 2 pieces of it. One page that I file with the government. So I file the marriage with the government with that license. I have to send it in within 48 hours of the wedding. The other piece is just like a tear-off piece. It's called the record of solemnization. So that piece the couple gets to hold on to.
Okay.
So that piece is not anything legal. It's essentially just a souvenir from the day. It has your marriage license number on it. It has your witnesses' signatures on it, but you cannot change your name with that. So 10 to 12 weeks after the wedding, you can go online or send in the application for your actual marriage certificate. So nothing comes automatically. As crazy as it seems to me, like it takes 10 to 12 weeks. I don't know why we have to have it in within 48 hours. So, potentially it's
People change their minds.
Well, it's not even anything to do with that. It's just actually we've filed it. It's sitting on someone's desk, by Wednesday after Saturday, but it takes them maybe there's 2 or 3 of them sitting up there up north in their little office, and they have stacks of them this big. I'm sure on weekends in September or something after that, they have massive stacks of them. I mean, sometimes I'm sending in 5 after a busy weekend, right? Or a 4-day weekend. So who knows what it looks like up there, but they say 10 to 12 weeks, and which you can apply online now. So it costs $21 extra. I really, really wish that when you purchase your license, you could say automatically send me the certificate. I'll pay the extra $21 now. And it just happens. I don't understand why it doesn't happen that way. It seems more efficient,
Yeah.
but that's just the way it is now. So,
There's a lot of government processes that aren't efficient. So
or that don't make maybe a lot of sense to the rest of us out here, but
yeah.
so be it, right?
Yeah. I used to
Yeah.
work in the government, so yeah.
I know. I always tease my brother, my little brother. Like, why?
Yeah. I know that, well, some areas of the government, they are trying to fix that and make, better workflows, but I just remember like it took forever just to change my name. Even after we got that certificate back, just to go through that process of changing my name. And then, you have to get I didn't know you had to get a whole new social insurance number, and like, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, if you want to legally change your name, you can do that.
To get your driver's license and your health card, you have to get the SIN card, and then you need certain documents for that. And
passport. And I usually just tell people to wait until they come up. Like if it's coming up for renewal, then do it at that time, just because then you don't have to pay extra for it. If you run around like, hey, I'm married now, I'm going to change my name everywhere, you have to pay everywhere to get that done. So if it's coming up for renewal and you can wait and have it kind of timing wise, it's good. But you can assume the last name straight away. So if you go and check into the hotel that night and you want to sign, your new name straight away, which I remember being so excited to do, and signing at Mrs. Davis, was fun. But then since then, I don't think I've ever wanted anyone to call me Mrs. Davis, but yeah, so it makes you feel older.
Yeah. Sorry, you just reminded me of something. So when I signed and I've heard different things. So when I signed my marriage license, I actually signed with my husband's last name, and apparently I was supposed to sign with my maiden name.
Yeah. I always, when we're over there signing, you might have heard me say this, or you might hear me saying this, sign as you would yesterday.
Yeah. Why is that?
You have to sign because you've purchased the license, with your maiden name, and that's the name that you're not officially married yet until after you signed, after the declaration happens, and after you said your vow. So those 3 legal parts have to happen in order for you to be married. So you're actually not married until you sign that.
So am I actually not married right now because I signed with my
If you got your certificate back,
I did. Yeah, I went through, but yeah. I don't know. Maybe
they didn't notice it was scribbly. Like I can't even read half the signatures that I see on certificates. So yeah, I'm sure I didn't really notice, but yeah, I'm always saying, and I remember even though it was a long time ago that I got married, I remember him saying the same thing to me: sign as you would yesterday. And I always say that, sign as you would have yesterday, because it makes them think right away, like, oh, you mean my maiden name? There's no confusion.
Yeah.
Easy.
See, but that's funny because I've been to weddings where, like a wedding last year where she signed with her new married name and she was all excited about it, and she was like cheering it, and the officiant, I heard him say, yeah, go ahead, right? So, but it makes more sense what you're saying, like you're still not legally that person until you change your name to that person, right? So
right. And you can assume it after the wedding, like I said, like that night or next
can you
day.
sign legal documents with that name until you get the no, right?
Like you can't even change your name at the bank and things like that, accounts, anything like that.
To do it too, like I forgot about the bank stuff and all the credit cards and
yeah, it's everything. It's so much. So every time a bill comes in, like hydro bills and gas bills, like you might not need the full marriage certificate for those kind of bills, but definitely anything like bank related or government related, you need the marriage certificate to change your name. And then some people don't change their names, right? And I've actually had a groom take a bride's name last year.
I love that.
Yeah.
happen? Is that only like once in a while kind of thing, or does it happen?
Yeah, it's fairly rare, I think, but it's happening, so that's fun. Yeah, it's
I like
cool.
when like both couples take like hyphenate.
Oh, yeah, yeah, that happens sometimes too. Yeah, so there's a shift there. It's happening
That's cool.
for sure.
Okay, so we're almost done here. What is one common thing couples don't realize when it comes to getting married?
Hmm. That you need an officiant. Although I find, honestly, I just find so many of our couples, I get so many, things last minute that they have to be ordained in the province of Ontario or has to be a city clerk in the province of Ontario. You cannot have your friends um, get something online and magically be able to, it's quite a long process in the province of Ontario to become licensed. So it's not like in the States and California where celebrities are all the time going on. Um, what's his name from The Office? Jim from The Office, with his podcast about some good news.
Oh yeah, yeah.
John Krasinski, right? He went on last year, just when COVID was starting, and he married a couple on a Zoom call, which
Oh
is,
gosh.
I mean, maybe it was legal there, but it absolutely would not be legal here. You have to have two witnesses, yourselves, and an officiant. 5 people have to be present in the same room. No one can be on Zoom.
Yeah.
You have to have your license. You have to say vows, and you have to have a declaration. And it always blows my mind how many people are like getting calls even a week before, days before. Oh my God. A lot of also retired ministers have had their licenses taken away from them. So they're kind of like cracking down on that a little bit now in the province of, once you're no longer with a church, they might not be ordained anymore. And you have to make sure that they still are holding their licenses. Some denominations are not paying for it anymore, right? It's not just like it used to be a perk. It's not the case anymore. So, oh my gosh, my uncle was going to do my wedding and just found out it wouldn't be legal. Do you have availability this Saturday? And, in a big panic. And I'm like, yes, don't worry. We always have availability pretty much. We always usually keep at least one person back in case of
Great.
sickness. We've luckily, knock wood, we never seem to be sick on our team. We always have 400 weddings a year and no one's sick is amazing. But we always have a backup plan, which is good. So it's just so many people go ahead and just are like, oh, we need a venue, we need a photographer and a florist and a DJ, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, we need an officiant. It's an afterthought for a lot of people.
Yeah. So when should they be looking to book their officiant?
As soon as possible, if it's a specific, kind of personality or person that you're after, and it depends on, availability of the day. So especially September books up so fast. September 22 is already booking up. September 18th this year is almost sold out. We're very close. So it just really depends on the date of your wedding and things like that. Fridays and Sundays, we have more availability, of course, but like I said, we always have availability. And they should be booking, I have weddings booked definitely into the fall of 2022 already. And some people just book last minute, and you're going to still get a great person from my team, but you won't have the bigger variety of people to choose from. That's all.
Are you getting more weekday weddings now with COVID and stuff?
Yeah, we did have a lot of weekday weddings last year just because the number of people was smaller, and maybe there's a lot more flexibility in when people could do it, which is then, when it comes to a venue, they're usually a little bit cheaper on a weekday. All the rest of us don't have the opportunity to lower prices on depending what day of the week it is, but venues, obviously it's a given that they're sold out every Friday, Saturday. So they want to bring in business other days of the week, so they offer incentive. But for us, it's the same amount of time and effort that goes into every wedding, just like yourself, I'm sure. So I have found that people are kind of looking for that. Maybe because it's just like, oh, it's just going to be the parents and brothers and sisters, like maybe 20 people, and those people can take that day off work. especially, and a lot more Sunday weddings have been coming up, and even pop-ups on Sundays because of the fact that there's not dancing till 2 in the morning. So maybe the evening's going to be over at 10 or 11. People still can go home and get up for work the next day and
Yeah.
not have a problem with that. So yeah, there's definitely been a shift that way. hmm We'll see if it stays.
Yeah.
Some people get married on their anniversary of their first date too, and if that happens to fall on a Tuesday, then it's a Tuesday wedding. So people sometimes want to go with that. So we see that
Yeah.
all the time.
I'm liking the weekday weddings. I've had a few of them, on
Yeah,
a day, which is different, even if it's
yeah,
not a holiday. And it's like, because I think a lot of vendors too were sort of incentivizing because of COVID and having couples move to more prime dates that could have been better
right.
for new couples. So it's like, if you don't do that, you
Yes,
have a bit of a break.
yeah, yeah, for sure. That could be happening too. Um, but yeah, it's been interesting for sure to see all the different changes and
Yeah. And
yeah,
how COVID's gonna sort of change the industry for the long term too. Right? Like there's a lot of temporary things, but I think some things are gonna stick.
yeah, absolutely. People have gotten a lot more creative too. We've seen
Yeah.
um, like trivia instead of dancing or karaoke if it's allowed. I know that there's been karaoke at weddings.
Comics,
Yeah,
magicians.
magicians. Yep.
Yeah.
Just kind of entertainment, dancers coming in, which we see dancers in cultural weddings all the time, right? From time to time, you see that, but more so now because they're just looking for people to be entertained in
That's it.
different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, it's
it's kind
fun.
of fun. Yeah, it is fun. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Do you have any final thoughts for couples that are planning their wedding right now and, stressing about this year or not, and just, any advice that you would give them?
Yeah, I mean, just trying to kind of go with the flow, take it one day at a time, and make sure you have a backup plan. Um, I mean, for me, of course, I think people should get married when they want to get married. But if they have a list for 100 people, but have a list for 50 people, and knowing that, a lot of our couples have said, you know what, we're getting married on this date. We don't care what's happening if there's 5 people there or 100 people there. We obviously hope there's 100 people there, but we're going to go ahead anyways. So having those different um, numbers of people and having that kind of mindset that it could go to that and not to be, totally, you know, I think they're less let down when it happens, if it does happen, because as we can see it can change on a dime. It can change so quickly. The numbers of, I mean, I'm sure you were probably working that one Saturday. I think it was in September or October, where the prime minister announced on a Saturday morning at 11 a.m. that the numbers were going to change that day from 100 outside to 50 outside, and from 50 indoors to 20 or 10 or whatever. And all these poor brides were sitting in the makeup chair, literally getting their hair and makeup done for their wedding later with people already in from out of town. I mean, a lot of them just went ahead and like, well, these people are coming anyways. There's nothing, I can't change it now. And
Yeah.
we've seen his announcements giving a little bit more time. I mean, venues specifically, just given my background in hospitality, I was like, oh my goodness, all the food that they've already ordered in, thinking they're going to be open this weekend, and then they're shut, and then they have so much waste. And it's really sad. But, I think just having that backup plan and being prepared for that, again, just like, let's say, just assuming that your wedding is going to be 10 people, but maybe it can be 20 or 50 or 100. And then that's just a bonus. If you get to have the bigger numbers and get to have everything you really wanted to have in the first place,
Yeah.
then look at that as a bonus instead of a necessity.
Yeah. The key word I've been giving all my couples is just be prepared to be fluid, right? Like just
Yeah.
be able
Flexible,
to
fluid.
move. Yes, exactly. Move with the flow.
Yep.
Yeah, and try not
And
to set those expectations so high of what you want your wedding day to be.
right.
Accept that
But this year, I have to say, like in 2020, we had some of the most beautiful, touching
yeah,
moments. I think you can maybe attest to. They were really meaningful. Like these people like it meant the world to them. They were just getting married and they had so much gratitude. And, a lot of them were so creative. And I mean, we got to go to a lot of different places too. So a lot of backyards. I mean, people really knock themselves out to put new patio furniture out and beautiful gardens and upgrading in their house that so they could have these beautiful backyard weddings. And I mean, it was a fun ride at the end of the day. As much as last April or May, I might have been in a panic. It turned out to be a beautiful year last year for sure.
Yeah, it was like one of my favorite wedding seasons, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't lose, but I had about 20 weddings moved to this year.
Yeah.
But I still was able to do 22 weddings last year. So
Yeah. That's amazing.
it was great for me.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling good about this year.
Me too. I'm
Yeah.
really excited. And I mean, just grateful every time we get to be able to work and be able to do what we do. And
I can't wait. I'm just
I know,
like chomping at the bit right now. Like you're
it's good.
lucky because you can still work a little bit, right? So probably not as busy, but
Yeah, it's been really slow this time around. I think a lot of people um, are just waiting because they know it'll open up a little bit again, right? We know that there's a little bit more hope and end at sight right now. So
yeah.
I think they're hanging in, waiting. So
Waiting to see what happens. I know. And it's looking like hopefully by March they're going to start lifting some of the restrictions where last year in March is when we were
right,
getting lockdown. So, maybe
right.
things will start up a little bit earlier this year and it'll be,
Yep,
yeah,
absolutely. I'm hopeful.
me too.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Kathy, for
Thanks,
being on the
Chris.
show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so, honored that you asked me to be here with you today. I love working with you. You're so creative and professional and fun to work with, and looking forward to hopefully many, many more this year. So thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I feel the same way. Thank you again. And guys, if you're watching the show and you enjoyed everything, please like and subscribe. We want to be able to produce lots more content for you. So it really, helps when you do that to get spread the word of what we're doing here. And we want to help and benefit as many couples as possible. Thank you so much. Have a lovely day.
Bye, everyone.